like to call the meeting to order of the Board of Leavenworth County Commission. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank everybody for being here today. For the record, Commissioner Holland and Commissioner Smith are present. I'd like to start out with public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jeanette Labby-Haldeman. I live in Lansing, Kansas. I'm here once again to talk about the proposed 5-district commission. I read in the newspaper and watched online that you are deciding once again to study this. First of all, I would like to thank you, Commissioner Holland, for at least attempting once again to get this done. Because as you know, and I know, our outcome will be that it will be on the ballot in 2018 because we will do a petition to make it so. My request is that you consider that before, so that a lot of the paperwork that needs to be done, and I will gladly work with the county executive here to go over all of the studies that I have. In fact, this has been going on since 1992. Others have attempted to get a 5-commission map for the county of Leavenworth. So if it's possible or needed, I will gladly work with him on the statistics that I've gathered to become part of the study it again system that I see that we're hung up on right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
My name is Ashley McAnnis Clark. I live on 17697 203rd Street in Tonganoxie. I graduated from Washburn University with a bachelor's degree. I've been a nurse for 14 years. As a nurse at a hospital, we have random inspections from JACO, Joint Commission Accreditation Healthcare Certification. We don't get a heads up when they're coming. For example, today, we will be visiting your hospital facility to ensure you're in compliance with the guidelines set forth to ensure safe patient care, which of course is number one in my line of work. All of us want to ensure that patients are safe, as sick people, the young and the elderly, are the most vulnerable population of people that nurses serve. As has been previously stated, the school systems and the nursing home facility are within 2 miles, give or take, of the proposed Tyson plant. I'll remind you, they are the most vulnerable to health issues that would arise from the chicken plant pollution. Not to mention our aqua system that would be polluted from the lagoons that Tyson will use. My family, including my 3 children, drink from our well. Mr. Holland, my questions are directed to you because you flew to Tennessee to view the Tyson chicken plant. Why do you feel that Tennessee was the best site to visit when Garden City, Sedalia, and Noel, Missouri are in a much closer proximity to Leavenworth, Kansas?
I felt that Tennessee was a model of what was proposed being built in Leavenworth, or Tonganoxie, Kansas. And I've been out by the IVP plant out on Emporia. I've smelt the smell, and I wanted to see something that was kind of the prototype of what was coming this way. And I was just trying to do my due diligence for the county, for all residents, not just for Tonganoxie, but all the residents, 80,000 people. And that's why I went. I was not interested in going to a pig plant. I was not interested in going to a beef plant. I was interested in going to a chicken production plant. I wanted to see what a place where they butchered chickens. I wanted to smell the smell. I wanted to go to every aspect that would be around this area, and that's why I went.
Did you ask the Tyson executives why they wanted you to tour in Tennessee?
No, actually, they invited me, or I think the state invited me, and I deemed this was the place I wanted to go see. And by going down there, I I did get to visit with the mayor of the community that this was in. I got to visit with the mayors and a lot of the people that are like us, commissioners, and I visited with them one-on-one. One of the commissioners from down there, that was Mr. Haley, I believe his name was. He gave me some information on what they had to do to attract Tyson to come to their community, such as bonding and enhancements to get them to come to there. He gave it to me on a little slip of paper, and he says this is what we had to give to get them to come to us. And I said, well, have you been disappointed in any way? And he said, no. He said, we have not. I asked him, like, your concerns on the water, and he said, we have not had any trouble. In fact, he has seen some of the water samples that were taken before they entered the water source down there, and they said actually the water was cleaner than the water that was already in the creek. Now, that's not coming from Tyson, that's not coming from the Tyson people, that is coming from the mayor of that area down there.
Do you think it was coincidental that they invited you to tour Tennessee on an announced visit? Knowing, so, you know, they had everything in place?
I didn't see anything that was what I would call trying to schmooze me. I saw people working. I saw African American people working. I saw white people working. I saw, the rumor was that we were going to get Somalian people in here. I think Mr. Graber said he didn't want illegal Somalian people in there. I asked the question to some of the commissioners down there. I said, do you have trouble with illegals trying to come in and work for Tyson? And he says, no, Tyson's very diligent on how they see, that's just why I don't like to speak.
I'm listening, so please.
You know, if I'm just, I respect whenever you talk, I listen. So I expect you, sir, whenever I talk, that you listen and keep your comments till you come up here. Anyway, I lost my train of thought now.
Will you go on record that our well water in Tonganoxie won't be contaminated by the Tyson lagoons?
I don't think we've gotten that far in there's a process that goes through when a big business like this is tremendous. Leavenworth County has never seen this large a business come to Leavenworth County. So there's a lot of steps before it ever got to be building. As Commissioner Smith said, 90 days, I don't know where that come from, but that was not realistic. It was not going to come in 90 days. There's so many steps that we had to go through and wanted to go through, more questions to be asked and answered, and I think our county administrator and Mr. Smith were aware of this prior to Commissioner Graber and I, because I've mentioned before that we found out about it probably 2 to 3 weeks before the announcement. I was excited when I first heard it in the executive session. Once the kind of the excitement wore off of me, I said there's going to be a lot of questions that concerns that people are going to have. So we need to be up on this. We need to look at all aspects of this project, and I was not just going to sign my name to the dotted line and say, go, we don't care what the people think. That's why I went to Tennessee, is to protect not only Tonganoxie people, which I did it to protect Leavenworth County, because I represent Leavenworth County as far as I'm concerned. I am a first district commissioner, but I do represent Leavenworth County. And part of the understanding that I don't really get is this was presented to be out in the county area, not in the city of Tonganoxie. It is very close to the city of Tonganoxie, and I disagree with the gentleman who was up here last week. Actually, they could have stopped the project right dead in its tracks, because they're within the 3-mile radius, and the city of Tonganoxie could have stopped this whenever they wanted, but they chose to stick their head in the sand and let us take the heat. So if you want to blame somebody, blame that commission down there. In fact, blame the city administrator for not keeping them updated on all that was going on. Having said that, I don't know what else you want.
What is your stance as of now today on if it were to come or not? Would you be for it or not?
As I stated before, I think that's a hard question to answer, because number one, you want me to say, no, I wouldn't be in favor of it. But is that doing diligence to 80,000 people or just 5,000 people?
Do you really feel like you're listening to your constituents? I mean, the Leavenworth County people voted you in. I mean, I was driving here from Tonganoxie, which I actually live in the county part, but you know, there are signs everywhere you look. No Tyson, no Tyson, no Tyson. So do you really feel like you're hearing everybody's voice?
Oh, I believe so. I get cards on a daily basis of dead chickens and no Tyson in my backyard, and I think one day I got 200 or 300 in my mailbox. They couldn't hardly get my mailbox closed. And some letters weren't so pleasant, and which I didn't think was appropriate. We're all adults. I think we can act as adults, and that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm trying to do for Leavenworth County, not just Tonganoxie. But I do hear what you're saying, and
with it being within.
I said that you were going to have concerns right from the start before it ever was announced. I said there's going to be concerns, and I told Mr. Smith in that executive session meeting there's going to be pushback, and I think he didn't think there was going to be this much pushback, but I knew there was going to be pushback, and plus change is something that most people don't like. They want to keep their community just like a little bedroom community, and that's
all it is. That's all it is a bedroom community at this time.
Do you realize how the taxing entity is going to go for a bedroom community? You're
Well, $3,000 a year in Tonganoxie right now for just a house, so it's already up there.
That's what I'm saying. That's how you're going to continue on, or you're going to have to cut services.
Well, but I don't think that anybody's against change in Tonganoxie. I'm for growth and expansion, but this is within 2 miles of a school system, 2 school systems actually, because of the private school. There's daycares, there's elderly people. These are our most vulnerable.
And like I said, Tonganoxie has the way they can go about shutting this project completely down if they want to.
They have already. No sewer.
Well, but that doesn't shut the process down, sir.
So what is the process for them to shut it down?
Well, I would refer to our county administrator. Would you want a reference to that?
Well, there is no process right now because there is no project.
Well, I
I
agree.
mean, that is the point. There is no process right now because there is no project. I think what you're referring to is that any rezoning within a 3-mile or even the TIF ponds within a 3-mile radius of the city has to be approved by the city commission. That's what he's talking about.
So it could be stopped by the city, and that's what I was referring to.
But voters said they're not going to provide any sewer or water.
But, sir, you don't understand, though, that just because they're not going to provide sewer, that doesn't mean that, in your words, maybe not yours exactly words, but there can be lagoon systems put in.
And they said they
And that is countywide, we have lagoon systems.
Point of order, who's talking? I don't know this gentleman. I would like him to have the info of his mic and be politically correct if
Okay. But just to answer part of your question, I think this commission thought the announcement was very premature because this commission wasn't ready to make an announcement like that. It was such in the early stages of developing that and that's, like I said, that's why the public didn't know.
And
If they would have like I said, applied for zoning, all the letters would have been sent out.
I only have one more thing, and I thank you for answering my questions. When you do make the report, if this does progress from your visit to Tennessee and what you all saw, would you provide an itinerary to account for all the time while you were in Tennessee at the Tyson plant and the visit itself?
well, I think I would defer to the county administrator why bring up this report when the project is dead? I mean, it's dead. I mean, we can't go on because the funding has gone away, and it's not an ongoing project.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Cecilia Pruitt, Tonganoxie, Kansas. I just had a couple of things I'd like to say. First of all, I went to our city meeting in Tonganoxie. I'm not a city member, I'm a county member, but I went to the meeting. And Tonganoxie has asked or has made a statement that they do not want this in the 3-mile radius. And they have asked the commission, the Leavenworth County commissioners, to make the same statement. Now, maybe that hasn't, they said they were going to ask it. Maybe that hasn't arrived yet. Have you received that?
Yes, last week we got a resolution, but I looked that resolution over after the meeting, and that resolution was not signed. So that's just a document that's unsigned.
All right. Who needs to sign it? Because I will talk
They
with
signed it
them.
Monday night, I think.
Yes.
We had a meeting on Monday, but we haven't got it back.
We haven't got it back.
Okay, well, that answers
I
that
mean,
question.
we got the resolution they
Okay.
were proposing, but,
All right. Well, so you will be getting the signed?
Right.
Because I know that they're going to be asking the
because
same thing of
the mayor
Leavenworth
has to
County.
sign it, the clerk has to sign it, and the attorney has to sign it.
So that, and, Monday to Thursday, that's not always a lot of time for
No.
things to
We
get
are
done.
short a
But
commissioner also.
we do know that it's coming. All right. A couple of statements I'd like to make, just, I think, for all of our benefit. But one would be regarding taxes. We keep talking about how this will help us on our taxes. Tyson, to the best of my knowledge, I've seen one paper that they've put out answering some questions, and people ask about the roads and our infrastructure, because we all know that throughout the county, our roads are not sufficient to handle these large trucks. And the question was asked of Tyson, will you pay for this? And they said, no, that's going to be the responsibility of KDOT, those roads are. Well, we know that's going to come down to local government. We know that's going to come down to our tax dollars. It's not going to be our tax dollars? Maybe I'm mistaken?
It'll be the tax dollars on the state level. KDOT has already, I guess we're not divulging anything because we don't have a project, so, but I was in contact with the governor's office myself, and just because I want to get some answers. And they had agreed to do a lot of the road systems themselves, KDOT has. And so, yes, it still will be your tax dollars because it will be your state tax dollars.
Yes.
But it won't be your local tax dollars,
Right.
or it won't be your county tax dollars.
Well, I have to tell you, when I do my budget at night, well, not every night, but tax dollars are tax dollars to me. Some of them are local, some of them are state, some of them are to the federal government, but they all come out of my
Some of them are to
pocket.
your
So,
school.
yeah, some of them to school. I took the opportunity, and I know some other people did, to go speak. He is what I think we'd have to say an expert on what these factory farms do to a community. And I will say this, somebody actually asked him his opinion on this for Tonganoxie, and he said, I do not have an opinion. He said each community needs to decide for themselves. But I want to address the worker problem, and one of the statements he made is that for people on the line, killing, hanging chickens and so on and so forth, these people do not retire from Tyson. Their bodies wear out long before they can retire. I can't give you the exact statistics. I could look them up for you if you wanted. I've got them at home. But Tyson has a very high turnover rate. So initially, when the studies were done, it seems like they're looking at Wyandotte County to bring people in for work, because we know that it's not around us, but so they're going to bring these people in from Wyandotte County, and then where Tyson has problems is that they have such a high turnover that pretty soon they very quickly use up the local population and have to go elsewhere. I would imagine in Tennessee maybe they just haven't got at that point yet. So I would just like to encourage anybody who hasn't had or didn't have the opportunity to go listen to Mr. Stahl, that you can watch it on Facebook. And again, he doesn't make an opinion for Tonganoxie. He's just talking about how this goes historically. So thank you very much.
And I did attend that at Douglas County Fairgrounds and listened to the man speak. Did not purchase his book, but I did get some literature from him. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? All right, we'll close public comment and go on to administrative business. Any administrative business? Mr. Lawford? Mr. Van Pares?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Holland, good morning. I did, at your request, take the opportunity to visit the Board of Directors meeting of the Consolidated Rural Water District Number 1. It was conducted Tuesday evening at their headquarters in Basehor. They were very congenial, and I think we had a very frank discussion with respect to your ongoing request that the Water District consider public bidding of the construction part of the upcoming relocation of their lines along East McIntyre. As I've informed you last time, we have received a proposed agreement from Consolidated Number 1. It does not provide for public bidding for the construction phase. I reiterated to the board Tuesday evening, I think in a polite manner, that it is the desire of this board that the construction phase be bid as well. They stated that it is their policy to use a dedicated construction firm and that they would continue to do so. I have researched this. I don't think they are legally obliged to use a public bidding process. The proposed course of action I would suggest to you is that we just continue through the negotiation phase to continually ask that they use public bidding, all for the benefit of the public. This is not an academic question. If a lawyer would look at it, the amount in controversy could well be $100,000 or more dollars, because the construction part of a water project is usually in excess of 50% of the project. So if the labor, i.e. the construction, is not bid, there's I think a substantial chance that the public is not receiving the fullest benefit. But again, they are not legally obliged to, but I think we can use what I would term moral suasion to see if they would agree to do that. The other thing is, since I believe it was an oversight on the part of the legislature when Chapter 82, Article 6 was written, to contact our local legislators and ask if they would review this matter and favorably consider amending that to require those types of water districts, like every other water district, every other, use public bidding.
I put a call in today for one of the legislators to respond to respond exactly what you're telling us that we need to do.
Commissioner Holland, a 3-word amendment. 3 words
Right,
would take.
3 words, that's all. Isn't there a state statute that says that we have to go out for bid on anything over 25,000?
There are various state statutes that require public bidding for various entities. I referenced water districts. There are, I believe, at least 2 or 3 versions, versions of
But I
water
mean,
districts.
for us,
You are required.
yes,
Commissioner,
we are
under-
required.
Under KSA 19214, any project you have over a specified amount, you are required to use public bidding. A great number of public bodies use public bidding at levels below the mandated threshold in order to take advantage of the cost savings through public bidding. It's required in some cases. It's generally complied with as a cost-saving measure, but we'll continue to work with that. You'll be receiving versions of the proposed agreement with Consolidated Number 1 as this progresses. And again, I intend to continue to ask them to do, I believe, the right thing.
So we would, and if we went along with their proposal, then we basically would be breaking the state statute law of not putting it out for bid.
Commissioner, one of the options you could consider is, with respect to the proposed agreement, rewrite the agreement to provide for the county to bid the matter out, and the county oversee the construction, that is the relaying of their lines. In that case, you would be mandated to bid the matter. I'm not certain if the water district would be agreeable to that.
I doubt it.
So I think the most effective and long-term solution would be to ask our legislature to remedy the problem. In the interim, we can continue to ask. But I would like to state Consolidated Number 1 was, again, very congenial to me. I think they've maintained an amicable relationship with the county, and they gave every indication that that relationship would continue, and I think the county will work on that as well.
I think what you got is just when they set up rural water districts in the state, they were just wanting to get water as quickly as they can to rural residents, to get potable drinking water to rural residents. So I can see where, how that happened. By delaying the project, I'm sure we would incur more cost than if we just move forward with it.
Well,
And then
that's
we
something
work
I-
on our legislatures.
That's something I would want to look at if we have to, but again, I don't want us to break the law, and
Right.
are we going to be in trouble? I mean,
Commissioner, I don't believe so. I think the water district is responsible for their lines. We are requesting that they relocate those lines. I'm not certain if you have the right to relocate their own lines on your own, but it's all in the goal of improving McIntyre Road and getting their project done and have uninterrupted water service to the citizens out there.
So like I said, I think our only avenue would be to talk to our legislatures.
Right.
Because like I said, they did last session, did do some discussion on rural water districts. So I think maybe it's time. But for the sake of this project, I think we need to move forward on it. I think any delays is going to eat up any cost savings we go.
well, that's one thing I would going to ask David, if we could have a figure come to us on what we're going to spend on the delays and what we're going to save by putting it out for bid.
Commissioner, I can provide that information to you. The projected cost for the relocation project by Consolidated Number 1 is roughly $470,000 with necessary easements on top of that if required. So we have a relatively firm figure of $470,000. Applying a standard, and it's not arithmetic and it may change, of roughly half of that being construction costs, we're looking at roughly $235,000 in construction costs. You recently opened bids for McIntyre, and the lowest bid is roughly, I'd say, 58%, 62% of the engineer's calculation of what the project may have come in at. So roughly a savings in that area. Apply that to the figure for construction costs, and you're looking at a figure north of $100,000. I consider that to be a substantial sum. I did discuss that with the water district. They feel that the benefit of having a known construction company with the avoidance of inspection costs and a surety that the line would be installed correctly justified that difference. But again, unless you direct otherwise, I intend to continue to ask them to use public bidding.
Go ahead.
I'd like one question. Did you ask them at the meeting about the rock clause? And is that rock clause into this amount that they're bidding us?
Commissioner, there are 3 specific provisions in the agreement that I am going to be recommending changing from the version that you were sent, one of which is the rock clause. I did not specifically address the rock clause. The topic to be discussed at that meeting was the bidding. The rock clause will be addressed as well as their calculation of a potential contingency clause in the agreement.
And so they can give us a detailed of what the costs are going to be.
Commissioners, they did forward you a proposed agreement. Your engineering staff has reviewed that with me, and we have at least 3 provisions we'd like to have amended or changed.
Okay.
One of the things that I think you brought up was we talked about delays. We kind of went through the same process on 147th. We asked them to bid. They said no, and we were worried about the missing out on the bids that we received, which were very, very favorable at the time. So we moved forward. But currently, they're somewhere between probably 9 to 10 weeks delayed on that project because of the waterline project. And one of the things you do, if it was our project, that we could do is put liquidated damages on any of the contractors that were holding the project up to encourage them to move forward, and then also to help recoup any costs we may have, because now we have a contract, we awarded a bid with an expected start date that is now probably going to be 12 weeks behind the original projected start date, which gets us well into winter and probably delays the project, which may cost the county additional money on our construction portion, not on the water line, due to no fault of ours, and it's out of our control because it's not our contractor, it's their contractor. They have used this person and they have no liquidated damages on him that I'm aware of, so there's no stick to make sure that they finish that portion of the project on time. And I would encourage that if we're going to have to go forward with this and use their contractor because they kind of have us over a barrel, that we put a clause in there that says if there are delays on our project, which cost us money, that they are responsible for it, or they allow us to do the waterline project and dedicate it back to them.
I guess I'm not opposed to using their staff to do this work. What I'm opposed to is them not putting out for bid. And I feel that this rock clause has been put in there before they even know if there's any rock in there, before if they know if they hit any rock. I mean, the taxpayers are going to pay money that maybe shouldn't have to be paid. And I'm very concerned about that. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Holland, I wish to stand corrected. I stated to you earlier there were 3 provisions that I was going to be recommending changes. There are actually 5, one of which is the rock clause. The other is that we arrive at a mutually agreed upon a billing system so that a billing that they send to the county matches how the county considers billing to have a seamless and uninterrupted handling of those. Again, we're going to be working on this. You'll, as they would say on TV, more to follow.
They had access to the bore logs, correct, on that project?
Yes, and upon request, we'd certainly provide those, but I don't...
So they should know where rock is and isn't,
Yes.
you know, because we spend a lot of money on that.
Well, and one thing I do want to reference is that they, maybe they do know where it is, and maybe they have ways of, changing the water line direction and avoiding the rock. And that's why when you put a rock clause in there, you put it in after you've hit the rock. You don't put it in prior. So we're going to pay them a rock clause in their contract before they actually hit any rock. And I know I've been on the board a lot of years on the water board, and not on that water board, but we've had rock clauses in there, and it's only after they've hit the rock and had to do the extra work to get the line in because of the rock.
Well, Commissioner, as you're aware, you can certainly move your water line, you can't move the rock.
Right.
I can't foresee that Consolidated Number One would intentionally calculate to put us through the most rock-laden strata that we've used. Again, that matter will be addressed, and you'll be seeing that. Your engineering staff is still reviewing it. As I said, we should have that to you, I would hope, maybe the end of next week or shortly thereafter. As Mark alluded to, if you've got the bids, you're reviewing them, you haven't awarded the low bid yet, we'd like to have the water line agreement worked out for your consideration and your consideration for awarding that bid.
Okay. Were they going to, they would be doing self-inspection, being it's their own contractor, and if they would go out to bid, they would have to hire an inspector, correct? So it'd be
I would
an
think-
engineer,
Yeah.
so there'd be some added cost there.
Obviously, Commissioner.
Right. They would want their own inspector, because ultimately, who's going to be responsible for water loss on that line? They are,
Right.
not us.
And the inspector's going to
Right.
add to the cost.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, we've got some really good bids on these projects.
Yeah,
This-
and we got a good rate on our bonding.
Right.
And so that's why we need to push
we need
this
to
along.
move forward.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Holland, if I could segue into something, the discussions with the property owners along Eisenhower is proceeding. I'm reviewing the appraisal reports. I just want to give you a brief update on that. The county is looking at perhaps initiating any necessary eminent domain proceedings before the end of the year. We're trying to avoid the relocation of any residences. That may be unavoidable in this case, but we'll have time to negotiate the acquisition of that. So I want to let you know the Eisenhower project is proceeding at pace as well. That's a significant project. You'll be kept informed as that develops. So I just want to give you an update on that.
Okay, thank you, David. Anything else administrative? Okay. Anything else?
Well, since you're rather laden with business this morning, Commissioner, I'd like to give you an update on your fence viewing requests.
Oh, I love fence viewing.
Yeah.
Commissioners, I was tasked to conduct 3 fence viewings. I want to give you an update on that. One fence viewing will not be taking place. Neither the person requesting the fence viewing or the adjacent property have any fences. So it's difficult
We can
to,
decide that one from here.
it's
then.
difficult to.
They don't have a fence, but
To
yet they
conduct
want
the
a fence.
requested fence viewing, and the property owner has been advised of that.
Okay.
The second fence viewing, notified the property owner in early August upon the request to provide me information on not only their address, the address of the property they wish to have viewed. I spoke with that individual yesterday afternoon. He's going to speak with his attorney as to whether he would contact the other person's attorney to determine if a fence viewing would be appropriate. If the parties request a fence viewing, I did stress, with the question of answering whether a lawful fence, not a boundary line, is at issue, we'll conduct the fence viewing. And another fence viewing will be conducted at 10 a.m. Next Friday on October 13th. The team will be assembled at 10 a.m. to conduct that fence viewing. A report will be prepared for submission to you for consideration.
Okay. Well, I guess we was planning on spending most of Friday viewing fences. I guess we just viewing one. All right, that's good.
It's good.
I just got we got the email yesterday from Human Resources about the personnel files and all that, and it says where the danger lies is between department heads and elected officials and all that about personnel records being leaked to the news media. Are we ever going to find out who did that or how it happened? Is it being investigated? I'd sure like to know who that individual is.
I think, as I mentioned before, it's been discussed with the Sheriff's Department, and it was also, my understanding, addressed with the county attorney, and they're proceeding as they feel it was appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the minutes, Commissioner, you have a chance to read it?
I have, make a motion to approve the minutes as stated.
Okay, I just had one question. It said approve the minutes as amended. Will we get a copy of the amended minutes?
Those are the ones that Commissioner Holland.
Right, but will I ever get a copy of it, what we amended it to?
Yeah, it was the
Okay.
motion died for like a second. That was not
Right, but will I get an updated version of it? Okay, all right, and I'll second that. Voting?
Aye.
Aye. And then I've,
OCBs.
yeah, I got some OCBs here. Commissioner.
Motion to approve the chairman to sign and date the OCBs as stated.
Second, voting?
Aye.
Aye. And then the agenda for next week?
Make a motion to approve the agenda for next week as, unless anybody has anything to add to it.
It just got added to
No.
Public Works. We added Public Works
I don't
to
have
a couple
that.
things. On Monday,
Award-
Monday we had to add a
oh,
couple things. for Public
Survey
Works.
design on SH30 and 150th Street. I guess that's not the time to ask the questions then, so
Yeah.
I motion to approve.
All right, second, voting?
Aye.
And we've got the Leavenworth County Veterans Day Parade Committee's annual request. It should be pretty easy this year. It's on a Saturday this year, I believe, yeah. Do we need to get with the sheriff on that?
Well, I read the briefing report on that, and there was a kind of a complaint by the Veterans Committee of automobiles still in the parking lot. And I think that should be referenced to the sheriff, because if they have employees that work on Saturday or they have visitation on Saturday, I think we have to allow some sort of parking over there.
Right.
And I think the sheriff ought to be involved in
That's
this.
what I was, yeah. So, that's something Mark can
Yeah.
handle?
Can you take care of that?
I can make sure that we put something out to all the employees from over in the Justice Center and make sure that their
Okay.
vehicles are out there.
Yeah.
There may still be some
If we
public
could-
vehicles from people who are visiting our
And you can
facilities
send them
over
an
there.
email that we request no vehicles be left if possible. And,
Sure.
maybe the sheriff would be amenable to having people park closer to the building instead of out in the middle of the parking lot, where it makes it difficult for the trucks and horse trailers to get around.
So we need a motion
Motion to approve.
for their following request for the porta potties and that.
Yes, I make a motion to approve porta potties and usage of the south parking lot of the Justice Center for horse staging.
Second, voting?
Aye.
Aye. And will you take care of that too, Mark, or have Trevor or somebody take care of that when we get that set up?
We'll make sure it's taken care of.
Okay.
We'll work with the veterans.
All right, and like I said, Leavenworth really has a very nice Veterans Day parade. It has a well
Want to thank you for this, David.
So hopefully we'll have as good as weather as we had last year. Last year's Veterans Day parade was nice. Had a real large turnout. So, we have anything else before us? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, voting. Aye.
Aye.